Hi everyone, Roy here on my channel Roy Reads Anything, and at the moment, while I'm doing a limited amount of booktube videos, I've been sort of combining things into what I'm calling a miscellany. So you get a sort of family-sized variety pack of different bits and pieces. So let's dive in. So one thing I thought I'd do is tell you something I've read. So this is something I've actually read and finished. Agatha Christie by Lucy Worsley. And it's great, this. You could almost think she was real.
Lucy Worsley?
No, she's obviously made up. But yes, as a biography of the legendary mystery writer Agatha Christie, it's really readable, looks like it's really well researched. I think I learned a lot. I feel stoked to read a lot more of her stuff. It sounds like they kind of get weird in the later years, and that some people like the later ones. There's lots of stuff where she seems to have been sidelined or sort of, reduced in people's mind by, ideas like, well, partly the success of some of the adaptations means that she's seen as like cozy heritage. She also gets misidentified with some of her own characters, although there might be some of her own character in her sort of detective protagonists. And, there's the idea that maybe she was mad or deceitful about the whole disappearance thing. That's all reappraised, and the fact that she's like a massively successful playwright, but is viewed as being sort of not quite the proper thing. So lots of great stuff in here. Really enjoyed it. So that's book 14 in my Slow Coaches Read What You Own project. Very good. What else? I've read another part of Miss Death, a anthology of all the stories, all the Sexton Blake detective stories featuring Miss Death as the villain. So I guess I'll come back to that when I've read the whole lot. Good though, because I thought I'd finished it, but there's like more stories to go. Interesting that they're set. So Miss Death, I've got to tell you this. So she's a young Yorkshire lassie who finds out that she only has 6 months to live. And she also takes possession of a blackmailer's book of details. So she's got control over lots of people, including lots of like top criminals. So basically she becomes a criminal, although the money she yields from her criminal exploits is often used, apart from luxuries for herself, 6 months to live, is used to, like, she sends it to hospitals and such, like, who are going to help the factory girls of the northern towns that she's from. And the stories are set in northern towns as well. So there's been one in Leeds, one in Sheffield, next one's in Bradford. And they would emblazon this on the cover and advertise it in local papers too. So the Union Jack is the publication when these stories came out in like the 1920s. So if you're in Bradford, you'd think, I've got to see what Sexton Blake gets up to in Bradford. And they put in local references. I don't know Bradford. I do know Leeds. I've actually stayed in the same hotel as Sexton Blake is in that one.
Is that the hotel with the noisy
Yeah,
myth?
I've never had a good time there, but it
was poor, very poor.
It was probably better in the 1920s, or people were more tolerant. I don't know. There certainly weren't many alternatives. You couldn't say, "Come on, Tinker, let's just go to a premiere inn instead." This lift is too noisy. Oh, and the final thing, she wears a skull head, like a papier-mâché skull head.
Excellent, I like her.
And the next one, I've only just started, the Bradford one. It looks like the villain, his motivation, due to some sort of a strange mental quirk, is a hatred of wool. So,
of all the things that you could have said,
I thought that would be the case.
Probably wasn't up top.
Wool hating, and he lives in, so there's like mills. He looks out of his window, and there's all these mills weaving wool into things. Excellent. Another thing I'm reading is Richard L. Tierney's Sorcery versus Caesar. So this is a book I found on my Kindle. I'd forgotten I'd bought. It's a collection of sword and sorcery stories in a historical setting, obviously, Roman times. All roads lead to Rome at the moment. I've just been reading about a forthcoming Rome event, reading event coming up. So, yeah, they're great. You know, I mean, it's the background is identifiable historical stuff, Roman Empire stuff, but there's plenty of magic and evil creatures and demons to satisfy the most sort of ardent sword and sorcery hound. What I wasn't expecting was also lots of interesting stuff about Gnostic sects of the time and mythology. So Rob M. Price, a theologian, among other things, writes the big introduction about that, an introduction to each story, which you can skip over if you don't want to get lost in the intricacies of such things. But basically, no, well, quite. I mean, so the stuff that Richard L. Tierney tapped into to give background to the story, combined with some more fantastical and Lovecraftian stuff, Price explains it all, but it's awesome. So yeah, enjoying that. Something I've found or acquired. Amazing Falling comic book. Look at this. Give you some spine action here. This is a bound set of the Strand magazine. Very, very, very crumbly. In fact, the front cover is pretty much separated from the book.
Did a bit of it just drop off?
No, that was my that was a piece of cardboard.
That's all right then.
I'm saving this up to make a sign out of. And you can see, sort of archaeology wise, interesting printing geek thing. They used to pad the inside of spines with just random overruns of printing from something else. So you find this sort of intriguing little bit of publication that you can see shining through. Anyway, why I got these Strand magazines, volume 15, is because of a story by L.T. Mead and Robert Eustace. Now, is it the story of the seven kings? I think it is, serialized in this. I'll probably read the Gutenberg version to stop it crumbling to dust in my hands. But the Brotherhood of the Seven Kings. That's it. What a great title! So that's a crime thriller by the incredibly popular then L.T. Mead. And one of my post-thesis plans is to do some propaganda to help sort of remediate.
Nice.
Help encourage people to give L.T. Mead a try in one of the many genres that she wrote in. So that's a forthcoming thing. I don't think it quite makes an event, but it will certainly be something I'll be, a drum I'll be pounding. Read more Mead. Make mine Mead.
I'll mead you halfway.
Screen-wise, and this sort of ties in with some reading as well. Where's my phone gone? Right, so been watching in order a set of movies called The Monogram 9. So these were early 40s, cheaply made, the so-called Poverty Row B movies, all starring Bela Lugosi. And again, Kindle book has stories that are sort of spin-off stories, tie-ins with these movies. So I can't read the stories without having seen the films. So far I've watched Invisible Ghost, where he's a kind of a murderous husband kind of guy whose wife is she dead? Who is this strange figure that comes to the window? Why does he strangle everybody? Followed by Spooks Run Wild, horror comedy, and this features the East Side Kids, who are a gang of sort of youths from the East Side.
Is that one?
The Bowery.
Is that the one where they told my dad's joke about the owl?
Yep, think so.
Well, my dad didn't own it, but one of his favourite jokes was, "Didn't get a wink of sleep last night. There's this noise keeping me awake. That must have been the owl." "Yeah, I know it was an owl, but what was it as was howling?"
Yep, that very joke appears. And that it's funny, isn't it? We don't really have the kid gang genre in the same way. Not these kind of.
No.
They come from
ne'er-do-well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're hardly the double deckers, are they? Really?
No, I mean, I've not really. Apparently, there were like loads of these films, often including these same. The same gang, the East Side Kids, and they morphed into other gangs. I think I know them more from comic books, which took the idea and put it into comic book form, like Boys Ranch, the Boy Commandos, Newsboy Legion. And in the 70s, I think one of Jack Kirby's best comics, The Dingbats of Danger Street. All those are Jack Kirby comics, and he apparently in his youth he was in that sort of world. Anyway, yes, Spooks Run Wild was good and had a bit that's so crudely done that it is actually scary. Black Dragons, Complete Change, that's like a sort of spy thing with like a fifth, bearing in mind this is the war, Second World War, sort of fifth columnists, also like top industrialists destroying the nation from within, and there's stuff to do with plastic surgery. And sort of vengeance being wreaked. So the theory is, well, Bela Lugosi, it was like a terrible abuse of his talents. What happened to his career after Dracula? On the other hand, maybe these are good in some way. The Corpse Vanishes, I thought was good. Had a plucky female journalist looking into this thing where brides are poisoned at the altar. A hearse arrives and takes them away, like immediately.
And nobody's suspicious.
Yeah, there's a dead body, take it. Yeah. And when not only is that, it's the hearse with Bela Lugosi, the company guy, accompaniment, henchman. They're not really dead. Oh, it's a bit of a spoiler there. Anyway, yes, that was good. And then my favourite so far, this is how far I've got, film 5 out of 9, Bowery at Midnight, which has like, what doesn't it have? Sort of has zombies in it for like 30 seconds. Bela Lugosi he leads a double life. One as a professor, and he has the best ever professor glasses. Plus there was a mad publicity shot of him as a professor surrounded by adoring young women. Anyway, yes, the Monogram 9, that's what I've been watching. Still persisting with the Avengers, though. Still in the Kathy Gale era, just about. Comic book-wise, this arrived from the parental attic, and it's a Star Wars weekly. So these were the British reprint comics of the 70s. So you see, it's a slightly larger format than regular comics. By which I mean American comics, of course. So what they did first was the comic book adaptation of the movie. So you're reliving the movie, drawn by Howard Chaykin, which sounds like a pretty lame thing to do. Why not just watch the film? But of course, we didn't have VHS recorders or anything like that. Once the movie was not on at the pictures, you couldn't see it. So adaptations like this were great. And they backed it up with some other Marvel sci-fi stuff, like Stan Lee presents Tales of the Galaxy. It's pretty good. There's some of the amazing merchandise you could get at the time, like Come Clean with Star Wars is actually selling you a galactic bubble bath pack where you can choose between to bathe in the manner of R2D2 or Darth Vader, depending what you want to smell like afterwards. And some, yes, rather amazing artwork too. So that's a fun little artifact. I'm not a big the Star Wars person personally, but I must have picked that up for my 10p. 10p. Okay, probably gone on long enough. Maybe we're going to split it in two.